Hello everyone, my name is Trevor G. Blake, and you can go down the rabbit hole of trevorgblake.com and you can discover my two New York Times best-selling books, 3 Simple Steps, which is a personal transformation book, and Secrets to a Successful Startup, which is all about starting a venture in commerce or in arts or in music or whatever you choose, but starting the right way, because most businesses, 82% of all failures fail for the same reason, and it's a dumb reason and it's totally avoidable, and the secret to it, what it is that you have to avoid, is in the book. I also back up the books with 2 courses: Transformation, which is a rabbit hole into personal transformation based upon 3 quantum physics principles. It's life-changing. You can't, once you get into the transformation experience, you can't undo the learning, undo the knowledge, so it is life-changing. And if you want, don't take my word for it, you can go on my website, trevorgblake.com, and look at all the testimonials, every single one of which was spontaneously provided. So this video blog is in response to a number of emails I've had in the last few weeks, because we've been expanding trevorgblake.com at an aggressive rate for a number of reasons. And so I've picked the emails, and I've picked the 6 most interesting ones, most interesting questions, and I've just thought I'd address it. So first of all, let me say, one of the strangest things about doing what I do is talking about myself. I'm most uncomfortable about it. And that's because if you were to label, I don't like labels typically, but if you were to label me, you'd say I was more introverted than extroverted. Although obviously at times I'm both. You know, if I'm watching my favorite soccer team play, I'm very extroverted, very animated. If I'm doing something like this, I'm much more introverted. So it can feel quite uncomfortable talking about myself, but I get these questions and get them frequently. So I want to respond appropriately. And the reason I want to do it is because we live in this amazing time. History will show, it's not just my opinion, I know, history will show that there has never been a better time to reinvent yourself and achieve rapid financial independence, and I mean rapid. And a lot of people will say, well, you know, I don't want to be financially independent. Why wouldn't you want to be financially independent? It doesn't make any sense to not want to be that. The energy of the world is changing, and changing in such a way, and this is a scientific thought, not a new age thought, and changing in such a way that it's disrupting every aspect of our life. And if you doubt me, then just go take a visit to your high street or your local mall. And all of those companies that we thought would be part of our life for the next 100 years, they're gone. They're history. And they're history because they weren't able to adapt quickly enough. And so we're living in a very fast-paced, highly technologically changing time that can put any company out of business in a heartbeat, and can also provide an amazing opportunity that you would never imagine possible. And so one of the secrets is to not hide behind the sofa, but to have the right tools and techniques to be able to be eyes wide open into this changing time and be ready for all these incredible opportunities that are coming our way, and build the life of your dreams and be the best version of yourself. And that's what I do. That's what trevorgblake.com is all about. So my 6 questions. So the first question was, what's the biggest thing that shaped your adult life? And I can imagine no one could guess the answer to this on my behalf. The biggest thing that shaped my adult life was being evicted. So when I was 7, we were evicted for the 3rd time, this time from a flat above a shop in Liverpool. And we ended up in the countryside. And my father knew what the countryside was and what it was like. I honestly think he was quite happy to allow the eviction to happen. But I'd grown up in Liverpool in concrete dust, and I'd never seen a tree or a cow or a field. And my brother and sister were 18 months apart. I'm the middle one. They also were immersed in the countryside for the first time, but they sort of both, yeah, so what? They shrugged it off. But I was blown away by it, by nature. And I immersed in nature, and it just completely changed my life, because I started to realize, even as a very young lad, that when I immerse in nature, when I connect in nature, I truly connect to this field of energy that in those days I didn't understand. Since then I've got my physics degree, and I'm a perpetual student of quantum physics. So I know what it is now. I know how it works. I know that between all the atoms, what we used to think of empty space is connected by a thing called the Higgs field. I use the phrase cosmic glue. It's what glues us all together, what glues past to present to the future. And the way to connect to it is through nature. Or as a kid, I didn't understand the science behind it. but I allowed myself to connect freely, in a childlike, fearless manner, and it completely changed my life. It's been the most important influence on everything that I've done, because as a grown-up, I know that if in business I face a challenge and I don't know how to figure out this challenge, all I have to do is go into nature and walk in the trees, and like that, I get the answer. So the biggest thing that has shaped my adult life is understanding that we're all connected. And if we change the way that we play with that connection, we can change the outcomes in our lives. So if our life hasn't turned out the way we expected it to when we were 5, 6, 7 years old, the way we wanted it to, it's not hopeless. All you have to do is learn how to connect in nature, and you can completely turn it around almost instantaneously. If you want to know more about that, it's in the course Transformation. So next question was, what is something you wish you would have realized earlier in life? So to answer that, I have to go backwards. So for some reason, when I first got into the commercial world, because I was in the Royal Navy, and then I worked in a hospital, very different environment, and then I went to work in the corporate world, the commercial corporate world, if you like. I was very intimidated by senior management. I honestly thought that they had all gone to some secret school that taught them how to be vice presidents and CEOs and managing directors. And I never knew I could never think of anything to say to them when I was in the same place. If I was walking down a corridor in an office building and they were walking the opposite direction, I would stumble, I would stutter, and I couldn't think of a thing to say to them that made any sense, because I put them on a false pedestal. I put them like the Wizard of Oz. And I started using the tools and techniques that I now teach in Secrets to a Successful Startup and Transformation. And it put me on a fast track career, faster than I could ever imagine, a dizzying fast track career. And before I knew it, within less than 10 years, I was a vice president of commercial development. And I realized that everyone's making it up as they go along. That no one has this golden chalice that has the answers and the secrets. But some people have the self-confidence to allow themselves to figure it out as they go along. And I wish I had realized that when I was young, because I would have jumped into being my own boss much sooner than I did, because I was looking for the secrets. And then I realized the secrets don't exist, except in my heart and in my head, or in my mind, and in nature. And so once I figured that out, when I was a vice president, I left being the vice president. I left the comfort of a very well-paid corporate world, and I started my first company. Started it with less than $200, and 6 years later sold it for $105 million. And that was all based on learning that everybody's making everything up as they go along. So why don't I just do the same thing? So the next question is, what is the darkest time in your life and how did you overcome it? It's a deep question. There is absolutely no doubt the darkest time in my life was December last year, December 2020, when my wife died, because we'd been married 40 years. We were so happy. It was after a long-term illness, and even though it was expected, it's, a lot of many of you, most of you perhaps have gone through something like this. It is a really devastating thing, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that without the tools and techniques that I teach in my courses and in my books, it would have been almost impossible for me to get through it, because I didn't want to get through it. I didn't want to go on. I just didn't want to continue. Why would I? My whole motivation in life, my whole purpose for doing anything that I've done, suddenly gone. But before my wife died, I promised that I would continue to make her proud. And it was a bit of a false promise, because the voice in my head was saying, yeah, but I can always just top myself and end it all. And I use the same tools and techniques that I teach. And that's one of the things that I want to mention, because it makes what I do authentic. We say at trevorgblake.com it's something different. Why is it different? Because it's authentic. Why is it authentic? Because I use all the tools and techniques that I teach every single day. And I have to, because I have exactly or more flaws than anybody else. I'm as messed up as anybody is. I have the self-doubt like everybody does. I have second guessing like everybody does. I get emotional like everybody does. I get angry like everybody does. And it's the tools and techniques that I learned as a kid, I learned as a teenager, that I got from biographies, learning how other people became successful and sort of adopting their attitudes and behaviors. That's all I did, and did that in my life. And it gave me the tools and techniques, which I've modernized, of course, to be able to cope with anything. So I think if you can cope with a dark period, a darkest time in your life, which is, the transition of the person who's the most important person you can imagine, more important than yourself, to help speed up that grieving period so that you can come out of it equally motivated and equally desiring to still make a difference in people's lives, to still have fun, and to still share in all the rewards, material and otherwise, that come as a result of setting that energy and flow. That's the mantra of all my companies. That's the mantra of trevorgblake.com. So the next question, a little easier one, is what is the one biggest contributor to your success so far? And that's a really easy answer. And that is that when I was younger, I read a book, and it was about meditation. And I realized that in all the biographies I read in my life, the hundreds of biographies that I've read in my life, that everybody had their version of meditation, even if they didn't call it meditation. Sometimes it was just sitting on a rocking chair and just contemplating. And so I developed my own meditation technique, which I call taking quiet time. It's the simplest transcendental meditation that you can possibly do. I've done it, I can't say every day of my life, because there's always times when we fall off the wagon, but I've done it almost all the days of my life. I can't imagine my life without it. My wife always knew if I hadn't taken my quiet time, she'd see, sometime during the day, she'd say, "You didn't take your quiet time this morning, did you?" Because my persona changed so dramatically. And so a simple form of meditation is the most wonderful brain performing tool you can imagine. It gives you peak brain performance, and obviously it's health benefits and all the rest of it, but I got into it because I wanted to change my life. I didn't want to be, no disrespect to my father, but I didn't want to be like my father, who was like his father, who was like his father before him, unemployed and unemployable. I wanted to be successful in my judgment of success, which was to make something of myself, to be a naval officer, to be successful in the hospital, to be my own businessman, to be my own boss and successful in business. And meditation was a doorway to all of those things. And it's my highest recommendation for everybody. And if you're new to meditation, or you think it's new age nonsense, or you're not quite sure and you don't know how to start, 3 Simple Steps, the book 3 Simple Steps is easy, $9. And I'm not pushing my books and courses, by the way. Probably sounds like it, but I don't need the money. All my proceeds go to cancer research and development, or my animal sanctuary, fluffsinc.com. So I don't do this I do it for personal gain. I can't deny it. It boosts my ego. It makes me feel good. I love making a difference in people's lives, and I love seeing their success. Some have gone on to achieve many greater things than I have. And to see that and be part of that is fantastic. But the starting point, the one biggest contributor to the success so far, which is the question, and the answer to that question is meditation. Question number 5 is, what is your morning routine? The number one thing is absolutely no electronic communication for a period of time. So I typically get up around 7. I do not check email or check texts, or I don't switch on a phone. I don't check an answering machine or any of the things that we do. Email, definitely not, nothing like that until 9 o'clock. I give myself 2 clear hours. And first thing I do is my personal version, taking quiet time, my personal meditation thing. And then I go for a long walk. And I have my breakfast, I'm relaxed, I'm cool, I'm ready for the day. And after a cold shower, because there's a lot of benefits to a cold shower, I take a cold shower and I'm ready for the day. And only then, only at that moment, 9 o'clock, do I engage in the world. And engage in the world is my 5-hour work day. So between 9 and 11 is my first productive period. So I do my work between 9 and 11. And then between 11 and 2, I completely switch off from work, which means leaving my devices in the office locked, and I'll go for a long walk for an hour, 2 hours, go and have lunch, whatever it is, but go into the chilled relaxation mode, because science shows that when our brains are slightly tired, then we're at our most creative, and that's where those aha moments come in. That's where you think, why did I just spend 2 hours trying to figure that out, and it's so obvious. And so that's why I split my 5-hour workday up the way I do. So my morning routine is very, very simple like that. And the sixth and final question, and I get this from so many people because they want me to recommend books. So they say, what books have most influenced your life, or some variation of that email. And I don't typically recommend books because I think books find the reader, not the other way around. Like the wand finds the magician, if you like, or the wizard. But if you want to achieve something different in life, then you should be reading biographies of people who've made that change. So I wanted a life of adventure. Wasn't interested in money until I got into my 40s. So I wanted a life of adventure. So I read tons of biographies about adventurers and pioneers and creators and all of that. And I spotted these 3 patterns of behavior and attitude. That became my first book, 3 Simple Steps. So I always recommend read biographies for whatever you're into. So if you're into music, you read biographies of fantastic musicians, and if you're into art, you do the same thing. You know, I mean, just biographies and biographies and biographies, and just read as many of those as you choose. That will have the most influence, and those are the books that have had the most influence in my life. So that's enough about me. It feels very uncomfortable talking about me, I have to say, especially unscripted. But those are the 6 more interesting questions that I've had over the last few weeks as we're expanding trevorgblake.com. So I hope it's of interest, and I hope there's some tips and tools for some of you in there. Don't be afraid to go to trevorgblake.com. There's nobody hiding behind the scenes who wants to steal your wallet or anything like that. You can download the free Practical Magic of the 5-hour workday and just start from there. And that's already life-changing. And that's it. And then more important than that is, remember, make a positive difference in someone's life, have fun doing it, and share in all the rewards, material and otherwise, that come naturally as a result of setting that energy in flow. Thank you.